Ladies and gentlemen, welcome all of you, and I think let's welcome together Marina Abramović again.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm aware that there is no need to introduce Marina, one of the most prolific artists of our time, an artist who has really changed our perception of art, who has expanded boundaries by using her own body as a vehicle in her provocative and deeply moving performances over more than 4 decades.
Actually, 50 years by now.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got 50 years, that's fantastic.
It's frightening.
It's wonderful, my admiration, my compliments, 50 years. I would like to introduce you to Jeanette Fischer. I have the pleasure, she is the author of the book we would like to present you today. And the very special thing about her, she is a psychoanalyst. She is a Freudian psychoanalyst who has, since the 1986, she has her own practice in Zurich. And what I think is very amazing that since she was asked to curate a show in the 90s, she is also has a career in the field of contemporary art. I think this is a very intriguing combination. And I think she will let us know more about her interest later. So to Marina and to Jeanette, just you allow me this very short introduction. We owe this beautiful little book, which is, I think, in itself already an object. So it offers all of you the opportunity to participate in the dialogue Marina and Jeanette had over several days on a wide range of subjects, and it presents to you the highlights of this conversation. So statements by Marina, insights by the psychoanalyst, a lot of insights, a lot of recognitions, and archival photographs. So artist meets psychoanalyst, and psychoanalyst meets artist. I think this is an amazing project. And I mean, Marina, there are so many publications about you, but I think for sure this is unique in its discourse and in its ambience of trust and intimacy.
First of all, how many people actually had the chance, because this book came out, to read this book actually? Can you? Wow. No, that's amazing. Everybody else who didn't read the book, please read immediately. Because first of all, is this working, this microphone? First of all, why is so unique? Because there is never made book this way, ever. No one artist had the courage to talk deeply about everything in his life in the most honest way I could possibly imagine. It actually was a frightening experience because you open yourself and you're vulnerable, and then you let Jeanette to analyze. And it was an incredible experience for me to read. When I was reading manuscript, I was dying. You see, she actually made clear for me things that was not being clear. She connected dots that I was not aware at all. And I remember she also explained all the men in my life, including my father, my brother, all the other men's ex-husbands. And I remember my new boyfriend reading the book say, "Oh my God, I'm so happy I'm not in the book." So I really wanted to actually ask questions, Jeanette. Why me, and why you actually want to do this book with me?
First of all, I want to introduce Simon Pear. He's the translator of the book. He will help me with the English in order to not hinder the flow of our discussion. I want to present him, please. Simon Pear, please stand up. Thank you very much. His translation is so good that the editor said it would be best to translate the English version back to German. Yes, and so he will help me. Thank you. I first.
So you speak then German, and he translates in English just for me. It's fine because everybody speaks German.
Okay, it's good. Thank you. These sentences were prepared. Yes, I first met Marina in the in the 90s. I saw an exhibition of in the Kunsthalle Bern. I didn't know her, and it was fascinated for me. I thought she is working about the same subject matter as I work in the psychoanalysis. And I called her immediately. And we met us in Amsterdam a month later. And from then, we have a friendship. And in just a few minutes, her interest began. She was interested also in my work, and that's what connects us still today.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yes, and yes.
Yeah. You haven't been, Marina, you haven't been afraid of her as a psychoanalyst. So because I read that you have developed, in fact, a method to do things which you are afraid of. And so I thought, oh, she's following her own recommendations, doing a thing she's afraid of.
But, I never been psychoanalyst because, I come from this Slavic country. We don't do these things. We are not like Americans. The first thing they ask you, what is your dentist and who is your psychoanalyst? Because otherwise, something is wrong with you if you don't have one. But I never had one, and when I met Jeanette, it was more like a friendship, and we talk about many things. And I was very happy with her very, very smart and intelligent, remarks on certain things I've been doing. But it was not really like psychoanalyst in a kind of proper way. The only when really I start be afraid when we start making this project with the book, because I say, oh my God, it's going to be the book. I mean, the other people are going to read. And so then I say, okay, let's go through this process, because I don't know till now anybody did this before, to publish the book. Yes, everybody go to psychoanalysts, but nobody published the secrets. And I'm really important for me, and also the way I work with the audience, is to actually create a state of vulnerability. I think that the artists have to be vulnerable. I think the artists have to be open. The artists have to be honest to himself. And because of being vulnerable, he connect vulnerability of the audience itself. Because in a way, otherwise you always appear somehow above everything and become narcissistic. And I think sharing and being fragile, it's a very important part of this process of working in this book.
I mean, sorry.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm aware that this was not the setting of psychoanalysis.
Yeah.
Perhaps you would like to explain the circumstances under which this conversation happened, because this is not the doctor and the patient. There is, in fact, it's another relationship. But perhaps you would like to talk about the circumstances of your meeting and about the time you have spent together.
Yes, I wanted to do something together, to create something with Marina, and we thought about, and she agreed then to make a book, to have talks for 4 days. We spent 4 days talking freely, associating in your country house with the microphones, recording all the talks, and this is the basis of the book now. And we didn't know was am Ende, now I change into German, wir wussten nicht, was am Ende herauskommt. Das war offen und ich habe es Marina überlassen, zu entscheiden, ob sie das Manuskript akzeptiert.
So we didn't know what was what the outcome was going to be. We left it open, and Jeanette left it up to Marina to decide what would be published.
What was your reaction?
Then I read the book and say, oh my God, it's all there. It's really true. It's really true that I have a really bad childhood. It's all true that when my mother died, that I felt released, and I'm not supposed to say this because you're not supposed to say this kind of stuff when your mother died. But I did. I say things that actually people think, but they don't say. Then also that my work I always felt that I'm never good enough. I also felt that I always have to love much more than I don't deserve what I deserve. So many things. There was so painful kind of discovery. It's like you take knife and you open skin, open more and more and more till you really come to this to the marrow, and I cry, and it was difficult. But then, you know, I just talked to some journalists yesterday about this book, and they said to me, I don't agree on her presentation because the way how she presents Artist is Present is only from your perspective, but not from the perspective of audience. But this book was really about from my side. She actually went into my side. She didn't go into the audience. She didn't go into how my art was accepted by the large audience and what the large audience think about me. It was really from another perspective, which I think is quite interesting.
Ja, das ist für mich eben extrem wichtig, dass zum Beispiel Artist is Present, man kann nicht sehen als Zuschauer oder auch wenn man ihr gegenübersetzt, was für Qualen Marina erlitten hat.
That's very important for me because it's not possible if you're sitting opposite Marina in Artist is Present to see just what torment and how hard it is.
So why you present it the way you present it?
Yes. Ich meine, wir müssen uns das vorstellen, sie sitzt 8 Stunden am Tag oder manchmal 10 Stunden am Tag auf diesem Stuhl im MoMA und sie kann nicht auf die Toilette, nicht telefonieren, nicht schwatzen, nicht essen, nichts. Und das ist eine wahnsinnige Gewaltanwendung gegen sich selber.
So we have to imagine that Marina sits there for 8 hours a day, sometimes 10 hours a day. She cannot eat anything, drink anything, go to the toilet, and this is an incredible turning of violence against herself.
Und das war... Okay, it's okay. Ja. Das ist für mich fundamental, diese Performances zu lesen von dieser Seite, eine Gewaltanwendung gegen sich selber und dabei zu schweigen.
So it's important,
darüber zu schweigen.
So it's important to look at the performance from this perspective, that it was an application of violence against oneself and at the same time to remain silent while it's going on.
Und darum sind sie so wichtig, die Performances. Wir müssen das lesen von dieser Seite, weil es ein gesellschaftliches Abbild von alltäglicher Gewalt ist.
And that's why these performances are so important, because we have to interpret them as the violence that society inflicts on the individual.
You know, I really, when I do performance, I don't care about myself. I don't think about pain. I don't think about this. I think it's like the normal process. I don't see this as a big issue. And I don't talk about to the audience. To me, it's so important the message which I go to give, and to give really unconditional love, and specifically in this performance to the audience. And so for me, it was shocking that actually she started thinking from my side and not from the side of audience. And I was almost somehow uneasy with that, because I think, okay, who cares how I feel? It's what comes out is important. It's very much to do with my background. You know, I come from communist background, and for us, the private life, your private suffering, nobody should even talk about. It's always that you do something for the higher cause. You have to deliver the message. You have to sacrifice your private life for something which is higher than just your own problems. So seeing that other way and interpreting it was pretty interesting and refreshing to me, because I never talked about this.
Yeah. I mean, this is obviously the hope you have expressed. You are quoted in the foreword that you said, from my point of view, you, Jeanette, are making a book for me to clarify my soul. And there is something I would like to understand better. And as I listen to you, I have the feeling that you really find out more about your inner life. Or also, I think you are very, of course, that's a question more to you, a very self-reflected person who knows exactly about your childhood experiences, about the trauma, about all of these life-threatening also experience you had.
But you know, we are sitting here in Byler Foundation. We have this amazing show of the Bacon and the Giacometti. And I'm just wishing why they didn't have Jeanette Fischer in those days, and they just analyzed Giacometti and Francis Bacon. What turbulent life, what incredible turbulent people both of them are, and how difficult it is. And art history is full of the difficult people. Never been easy. And it's, for me, it's almost, difficult to confront myself with this book, because they show things that normally in art nobody see. It's something underlines in between everything.
Ja, das macht es auch interessant, weil die Kunstarbeit, die Arbeit an der Kunst ist ja auch vom Unbewussten gesteuert. Und das finde ich sehr interessant, wenn Marina dann nicht darüber nachdenkt. Die meisten Künstler denken ja nicht darüber nach. Und das macht es so allgemeingültig auch. Also ein Wert für alle.
So it's interesting because art is guided by the unconscious, and it's interesting to see whether Marina is aware of that, and that's what makes it then universally applicable and universally important.
Yeah.
But you know how the artists do things, really unconscious. When you start my career, I was a kid, I was painting. And what I was painting my dreams. Very simple, because it's given to me. I go to sleep, I dream the dream, and then I paint the dreams. Easy. Then I got into another evolution of another works, so on, and I came, to a very early stage to find out that the performance is the great tool for me to express my work, because it's to do with the materiality, with the direct contact with the public, with the energy exchange, and so on and so on. And everything looks so kind of simple and clear. But in the same time, when you're very young, you have different ideas who you can't connect with anything. You have one idea from one side, comes somewhere from your dream, and then you have a completely opposite idea for somewhere else. And then you say, oh my God, but this is not a line in my work. You always, in artists, have to kind of follow their own invisible line. But in my case, I never did. I say, who cares? If I have urge to do something and I am possessed and I really feel in my body like that, like I need to breathe, I have to do this work. And if I'm afraid of, even better, then I will do it. And then, there was, in the beginning of my career, the one work didn't have nothing to do with another work. It was so many. It was doing sound installation and the paintings and the drawings and the writings and performances. But then now it's 50 years later. And 50 years later, everything comes to the perfect clarity. When you're young, you don't understand how things work. You don't understand fully why you're doing this or that. But you need time, experience, and age to understand that everything had a meaning and everything is in perfect order. It could not be differently than it is. And then comes Jeanette and make everything even more clear.
Zum Beispiel finde ich, dass in ganz vielen Performances von Marina zeigt sie, dass sie die Verantwortung abgibt. Also das heißt, umgekehrt, dass der Zuschauer die Verantwortung ihr übergeben kann. In Rhythm O hat sie deklariert, ich übernehme alle Verantwortung.
Mm-hmm. So in many of her performances, Marina states that she will take on responsibility from the viewers, from the visitors. And in Rhythm O, she stated it very explicitly that all that responsibility was now on her.
Und das ist in einer Beziehung wichtig, das kennen wir alle. Wir geben wahnsinnig gerne die Verantwortung ab.
And we all know that from our relationships that we are very keen to give up responsibility.
Darum hat Marina auch so viele Zuschauer bei den Performances.
And that is why Marina has so many viewers, so many visitors to her performances.
Yes. Und ist berühmt deswegen.
And is famous.
But the core of this book really starts with my swimming lesson with my father. And I didn't realize how significant this swimming lesson was for my entire life till I read her book. And this really makes so much sense. So, this is the story. I'm 6 years old, and my father learned me to swim. And he learned me to swim in very low water, just till my knee. And I learned to swim, but I'm afraid of deep water. And I'm incredibly afraid of deep water, and I want to go. So my father took me in the little rowing boat, 6-year-old kid, put me in the boat and bring me to the middle of the sea. And just like a little dog, she took me out and just put me into the water. And he rowed away from me about 100 meters. And I am terrified. You know, I went down, I drank too much water, I got, swallowed the water. I was drowning. And I was looking constantly when I go up the boat. My father stopped 100 meters away, but he's back to me. And he never looked back. And I scream and help, and he doesn't do absolutely anything. And if you're 6, you start this belief that your father doesn't love you, that he let you down, that you're going to, drown, that you can drown, and he doesn't give a shit about that you're dead or alive. And I got so angry. I got so angry that actually, okay, I am alone, and nobody ever going to help me. And then I start swimming from the anger. And I swim to the boat, and he's just listening how I'm arriving. He still doesn't look back. And he just put his hand like this, and again, like a dog, took me out, put me back. No words exchanged. So this was my swimming lesson. This was my swimming lesson that actually completely somehow make the sign to my entire life that everything I've been doing myself. I never married a rich husband, in order to help my work. I never married anybody to get visa because I'm from ex-Yugoslavia. I done everything myself. I never had the money. I teach. I work really hard to where I am now. But it's all on my own. And that was so important that actually, that is nobody there to help you, that you will always be alone. And that feeling of loneliness stay forever. And this is really mark of that lesson of swimming that I never was clear to me till you told me.
Ja, und das durchzieht eigentlich dieses Alleinesein und im Stich gelassen werden, durchzieht alle Performances.
So being alone and being abandoned is a thread that runs through all of Marina's performances.
Man könnte sich ja auch vorstellen, dass im MoMA jemand zu ihr gegangen wäre und ihr Kaffee gebracht hätte.
One could have imagined that in the performance at the MoMA that someone might have gone over to Marina and brought her a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
The kind of relationship. No contact. I made the rules, no contact, no coffee. No, but it's very interesting. In my first works, when I write Rhythm Zero, where I put also pistol and bullet, and you can kill me literally, and I was 25 years old, and I knew, I just want to know how far audience can go. That audience can actually kill you, and in my experience, yes, audience can kill you. It then took me another 25 years to realize I can give audience the tool to make the spirit low, or I can elevate spirit by artist is present, which I actually give the possibility to live the spirit just by giving them love and no any other tools, to mess up their minds. No pistols there, no cup of coffee. Just simple rule. You can sit there as long as you want and just be in presence.
Ja, für die anderen, aber be in presence für sie selbst mit den archaischen Bedürfnissen. Das dürfen wir nicht aus den Augen verlieren, dass das gleichzeitig ist.
But we shouldn't forget that at the same time, there is the importance of being present for oneself and with one's own archaic needs.
I will remember this.
Ja.
Nevertheless, I would like to ask you, when you say you have learned more into the book about the mechanisms and how things work and what is driving you, what is pushing you, and you have very much, with Jeanette's help, but also before, getting the links between your work and how to transform it into aesthetic, into a visual language. And I would like to know, what does it mean, these recognition for you? Has this any consequence for your performance? Because we think you need all of this, of course, your pain, the violence, all you have went through during your life to have this charisma and the aura and the power and influence and responsibility you can take over for your audience.
So my really belief in those days was if for an artist to have bad childhood, the worse childhood you have, the better artist you get, because you have the material to work with. And I was thinking that happiness is a kind of state that's kind of strange, that you don't want to change. And from happiness, not really good stuff made up. If you look into the literature, the film, the anything, you know, the art, visual, it's always come from this drama. It's always come from some unbelievable turbulence. So right now, after, you know, I'm at this age, I'm 71 this year, and I really believe that I'm happy. There's nothing wrong with me. I went through so many shit that I actually feel good. And now I'm terrified with this feeling. Because what you do, you feel good. I always believe that something terrible is going to happen, a second shoe is going to fall in your head, and everything's going to be a mess, and then, wow, then I know how to deal with this. I don't know how to deal with things when they're good. I have to learn, like a child, learn to walk.
It's your responsibility. I mean, yeah, I'm not so sure anymore if we should thank you for the book and for the conversation.
Maybe you ruined me completely now.
Because I think you have given Marina really also a recommendation how to live and how to change things. And that something has to do with enjoyment, with fulfillment. Could be very dangerous. Perhaps you would like to say something about this?
Very dangerous. What are we going to do with this?
The artists upstairs, they would have avoided a psychoanalyst because they would think that the fountain, the source of their creativity would die out, dry out.
Ja. Was ich eben wichtig finde, ist, dass es von dieser Pain wie transformiert werden kann in einen Genuss, aber nicht in einen schmerzhaften Genuss, sondern in einen lustvollen Genuss. Und ich finde, das ist eine Schaltstelle, die wichtig ist für Marina und vielleicht eine Antwort.
What I think is important is that pain can be transformed into enjoyment and not into painful enjoyment, but into enjoyable enjoyment. And that's a kind of a cornerstone, that's an important point to work on.
It's completely right. The one thing that I'm doing right now, I put so much more humor in my life. I wake up in the morning and I laugh. And I have now the group of people who sending me the funniest jokes and totally politically not correct. And we had so much good time. And laughing is important, but not just laughing about others, laughing about yourself first. So this is one of the cures, really, to understand. But I really think now we should maybe ask audience, because there are some people read this book. I'm so interested about questions. Any questions? Come on, ask some questions. That's so good. Don't be so Swiss. And you can ask me anything. Oh, there is one. Do we have microphone? Wait. Are you Swiss?
No, I'm not. I'm Turkish British, so.
Spanish, okay.
The book, which I underlined, I think maybe every other sentence in, seemed to end with you in an interesting place, having gone through this private hell of these two love affairs. And it's interesting hearing you talk about your relationship to aloneness and how that's been...
With who?
To your aloneness, to being alone.
Alone.
And I wondered if you're wanting to share about that, where you are with that now at 71 as somebody who's curious. And also, if you can say a bit more about this idea of the need to be in touch with one's aloneness in order to be an artist, to access one's creativity and not smother it with codependence or...
You know, it's a big difference between feeling alone and loneliness. You know, loneliness is so difficult because you feel really abandoned from the entire world. You just feel that nobody's there for you and you're not loved. And that's something that I had for a long time. But being alone is a really good thing. I love being alone. I like going to waterfalls. I like to go to the mountains with these exploding volcanoes. I like to go to the forest, to seaside, because to me the nature is the biggest inspiration of my work, because nature kind of breathes life. And I like to expose myself to the nature. I have lots of little Abramović method, how you call them, the instructions for the friends of the public. So if go to nature, pick up the tree you really like, hold the tree and complain minimum 15 minutes. So good for you, you know. But also, you know, that's kind of being alone with yourself is a very productive and important thing. But loneliness comes from something from such a thing of childhood and being like in this boat and nobody comes to save you, or my mother who never kissed me because not to spoil me, or this kind of stuff. It's funny how that the early experiences in the childhood mark your life forever. And it's so hard to kind of grow up from this and accept that, yes, now it's fine, I'm not lonely and I don't feel loneliness. But for the work, I use everything, always.
As you were just mentioning your relationship with a father, could you ever it's me here. Could you ever...
Are you Swiss?
No.
No. You are? No. I want Swiss people to ask the question. Okay.
Could you ever discuss what happened in the boat with your father?
What happened to the father?
Get a different relationship to your father in the end?
Oh, what happened to my father?
Could you tell your father after?
No, we never had a conversation about this. Never, and looks like that this was a normal way how the communists learned the kids to swim. And he never mentioned anything, and I never, absolutely never. And then my father left when I was 17 and married a woman who was 25 years younger of him. And then she died first, and he died from loneliness. And we had hardly any contact, very difficult. That's the end of my father. But still okay, my mother was worse. Yes, there. So, oh, yeah. Oh, Swiss?
So I'm finally Swiss.
I'm
But
so
in fact,
release.
but I must say, thanks God, I'm half Italian. But I got a Swiss,
Oh, that's...
like many other Swiss, have a Swiss passport anyway. I wonder whether this idea, I was really very enjoyed by the idea, and I don't know whether it was Jeanette's idea or a discovery, that you are taking all responsibility. I think that is very interesting. The idea that when you make a performance, you take all the responsibility. I mean, you don't say it, but it's somehow inherent. And so I was thinking, what kind of responsibility? So I thought, aren't you kind of the mirror of the public? You're kind of an enhancing mirror, but still you're taking the responsibility of what is happening in the public, watching to you, because you're triggering so much, but you're taking the responsibility for what is happening in the people, which is very diabolic and violent things. But you're taking, and so I thought this mirror thing, and the mirror who is taking the responsibility of what he's showing to the to oneself is for me a very interesting discovery, maybe of Jeanette.
So I really like to talk about this. This is an excellent question. Taking responsibility. Maybe after all, this both experience that I get angry and I done it myself, it was good for me. Because I understood that nobody can make anything for you. Nobody can make any change. Nobody can make the journey for you. You have to make the journey yourself. And whatever is happening, you have to take full responsibility. You know, I'm just thinking about the world, how it looks today. I mean, Kim Jong and Trump and all the mess we're having it around. And we're always easy to criticize how things are outside of us. And we read the newspaper and you're angry on this, you're angry on that. But you never really look to yourself and you say, okay, what is me? What is my duty? What I can do to make these things different? And when you do it this way, you actually can start changing yourself. And the moment you can change yourself, you can change thousands. This is how it works. And we never think of that. And that to me, in my entire performance, is that thing that I have to go through my own experience as far as I can, emotionally, physically, whatever. And if I can change myself, I can actually influence that change to others in some ways. And you know, with performance, if I will take any of these pieces and rehearse before, I will never do it, any of them, because I think I'm crazy. I mean, this is insane. Plus, I will not have energy to do it. The only thing, I create the concept, which is very clear, very precise, and then I stand in the front of the public. And the energy of the public helps me to go to these limits, not me alone. And that energy is incredibly important because public and me create work together. But then I'm taking responsibility completely for myself, for them, and for the world. And then I become the mirror. If I can do this, they can do too. And this is how it works in my case.
Kann ich noch etwas dazu sagen? Das heißt aber auch, ich bin einverstanden mit Marina, aber es gibt eine andere Sicht auch, dass niemand je die Verantwortung für Marina übernommen hat, als sie Kind war. Ein Vater wirft das Kind nicht ins Wasser. Er hat die Verantwortung.
So I agree with Marina, but from a different perspective, that means that nobody ever takes responsibility for Marina, and her father threw her into the water and took no responsibility.
In the childhood.
What was the wrong there, I didn't feel love. That was the wrong part.
But I think, if I may say this, that this is exactly the focus. The book is the concentration on your biography of your experiences, but to transcend this in general and to take over and put it in the context of social, political circumstances, as you have mentioned them, that this is the focus, the main thing.
You know, which is for me interesting, I put myself in a very different positions. I just want to say that I will work with Bob Wilson. I think I performed this in Basel. It's called Life and Death of Marina Abramović, which he actually direct my own life, including the funeral, and start with funeral, by the way, and then go backwards. And when I give him the whole material, I say very clear to him, you can choose anything from my work, from my tragic stories about my life, and stage the way you want, so that I just am tool in your hands. I wanted to have a situation that somebody else look my life and that this life look new for me, because he arranged differently. So he look into material and he say, okay, everything to do with your work, I'm not interested anyway, everybody knows. I'm interested in tragic stories, so tragic. And he said, they're so tragic that if we will stage them tragic, they will look totally kitsch. So we have to make slapstick and funny things out of them. So during rehearsals, I was crying every single day. I was like, God, I was going through trauma. But then he said to me, why are you crying? The public have to cry, not you. And then by repeating this through the rehearsal, repeating them through 3 years of performance around the world, I completely got free of them. Now I can tell them, and they're funny even to me. I got release out of that drama by doing it. So to me, this was one way that my life looked completely different. Another thing was working with Jeanette. And her point of view on my life was again very different. So you actually give possibility of people interpretations and be okay with this and not be judgmental. Just a few days ago now is my big show in Bonn called The Cleaner. And I give permission to a young artist to re-perform piece House with Ocean View, which is a very difficult piece. It's 12 days without any food, only drinking water and not talking and standing in the 3 units up in the museum day and night. And you can't come down because you have ladders with knives. Very hard piece. And she's now 4 days performing just today. And coming there when she started this piece and standing in the front of something that was me before. And it was, I can't even tell you how emotional it is. I was crying and uncontrollable. Why? Because I actually let it go. This piece is not mine anymore. It's everybody else. I'm sharing it. And even if she put her own charisma and own ideas to do this piece, it's better than just that work that is never going to be repeated. So I give him new life. And that new life means that even I'm not there anymore, this work is going to exist. And that existence is essential. That, like your children, you let them grow and you don't own them anymore. The same way you have to do with artworks. It's very hard for an artist because of egoism and attachment and everything to do. But once you've done it, the freedom is incredible. So for me, this Jeanette book is also another way of freeing myself from myself itself.
Sorry? I have a question. For a while you performed with Ulay, and I wanted to ask how that's different considering the whole taking responsibility and doing things by yourself. The whole dynamic, because then you, I don't know, did you share all your thoughts with him, or?
You talk with Ulay?
I'm talking about the time you performed.
Oh, this, relation with Ulay and my work with Ulay is so different because, we are actually creating work together, which two ideas and two male and female energy come together and create something which is a third energy, third dimension, And then, that third thing have to relate to the public. But when you're alone, it's just you and public. When Ulay left, the chair was empty. The chair became the public.
Do you know why here? Sorry. Hi. Do you know why you made the decision that it's enough, that you want to start being kind to yourself?
To start being what?
That you start being kinder to yourself? Do you know why you made that decision? I felt in the book that you really made this decision, it's enough now, or maybe unconsciously made this decision. Do you know why you made it?
Oh my God, I really find that happiness is not, after all, that bad thing to be. That's all. And I fall in love again. It's important.
Hello. In your autobiography, you dedicate it to your friends and to your enemy. By reading your autobiography, I didn't realize that you have an enemy. Which impacts do they have in your life art?
Oh my God, everybody have enemies. I mean, first of all, when I dedicated my biography for friends and enemies, I realized in my entire life there's so many friends become enemies and enemies become friends. But I made a huge mistake, which I'm going to correct for the next book. You know who I forgot? Friends, enemies, and strangers. Strangers are so important. Strangers are the one who come to your life unexpected and create entire shift of destiny. We always have to talk to strangers. We always have to not be afraid of the strangers because they are the ones who can actually open you something, take you out of your safety box and bring you something new, completely unexpected. So, strangers is the key. There is one here.
Hello. I'd like to ask you, because you said that you felt this loneliness all your life, for most of your life, that you felt this loneliness. And I'm just interested to know why you didn't choose isolation, but you chose to step in contact, this urge to step into contact with your audience and to get into relationship. That's...
somebody said to me earlier, mostly the people who never receive love as a child will also be terrible in they grow up. They will never actually want to give love because they're used to not to have love. With me, just work completely opposite. I just want to give love. And I think that there's something opening heart is so important. When we talk about this, I mean, it's like art context, you say, oh my God, what she's talking about, this strange thing like spiritualism, it's all spooky, love. But love is an incredibly important notion. That when you feel that in every atom of your body, in every molecule of your soul, that is, the entire world looks better. And when you start profoundly feel love in your heart, especially not just for the lover or the friend or the brother or the family, but for human being in general, something else happened to you. You completely get into another state of mind. And I really would like, through my performance, to show people that it's possible, that kind of state of mind. You're definitely not Swiss.
No, I'm not.
Yes, half. I just wanted to ask you, can I hug you?
This hugging is incredibly important. Hugging, we have to hug with the heart to heart right now. Come.
That's it. That's it.
Hugging is serious business. Don't cry.
Don't worry, I'm not going to ask for another hug. Maybe later on. Thank you so much for this talk. It's so inspiring to see someone who can deal with vulnerability so well, and it is so important to be able to be vulnerable because that opens up this extremely big space of exploration. But what I wanted to ask is that you sort of touched on it a little bit in your talk, but that gap between romanticizing pain and suffering and getting energy from that, but also, you know, being healthy, and as you say, you're happy now and getting energy from that. So I'd be interested in where you get, like in any state of being where you are, where you get your strength to do this incredible art that you do, and what you would, you know, sort of recommend or what advice you'd give to young artists.
Advice to young artists. Okay. Dr. Abramović said to you, follow. First of all, if young artists come to me and say, I want to be an artist, I send him home immediately. Because you can't want to be an artist. Art is like a breathing. You breathe or you don't breathe. That's it. You have to feel urge to create. You have to feel, you have to wake up in the morning and you have to have nothing in your mind but ideas that you want to do. And these ideas have to be obsession. We can't deal with the daily life without doing it. So that means you are really an artist. But then, you know, to really be great artist or true artist, or you have to sacrifice everything, my dear. Family, children, all these things, you know. And it's lots of lonely hotel rooms and lots of loneliness there. But you follow your dream and you give everything into it. And I think that in my case, my energy comes from my work and not compromising much. I really love what I'm doing, and that makes me so happy. That's the really important part, that you're not doing something and you want to do something else. Then you're losing your time. Life is too short. We have to do things that we really wanted to do, and it's our call. And you have to be very fast, ready to understand what you want to do. Many people spend half of their life in doubting, and they're trying here and trying that, you know, like a big supermarket of possibilities. And then you lose yourself into this and looking too much around. You know, art, you should not look about what is fashionable today or not, or what is marketing today or not. You have to just look in yourself. The more deeper you go in yourself, the more universal you come to the other side. And you have to find this language that really is just you and nobody else. And that's a hard job. That's all.
Please stop it now, yeah? Yeah. I think this was a wonderful, wonderful statement to the end. If this is there another question still? Many. There's not enough time.
Hi.
Enough questions.
My name is Jasna. I have one question about what you said about responsibility. What do you think about having control over your body, over your feelings? Like, I was amazed when I read that when Ulay wasn't waiting, where you expected him on the Great Wall, or when the MoMA the artist present ended a few minutes too early. How does that affect you, and how important is that or how is it connected to the feeling to be recognized, like having the control and knowing?
Many questions.
So
one question.
Just if you can
It's three
bring them
questions in one
together,
already.
what does control mean to you?
Okay. So I made a manifesto, artist manifesto, which I'm very proud of it. And it's a very simple thing. You should not have any control about your life. You should have total control about your work. And that's the key. You should not control your life. You should let happen. You should go to places you've never been. You should go into unknown territories. You should experience things. You should talk to strangers, by the way. And this is all open. There's like open sky, open sea. And then when you get experience from your life, create the work which is in total control of you. That's the key. I want to ask the Jeanette Fischer my last question to her. So, Jeanette, after working with me, as you know, do you have any plans to do another work with another artist, and which artist will be?
Now, I hope to work with you together. Yes. Second scene.
You mean me and you and another artist? That's too crowded.
With you.
But which artist you think we should analyze together? Let's get somebody really difficult. Okay, let's ask audience. Which you think we should analyze? Come on, give us some. What you think? Something completely insane. What you tell me? Which artist? Give me one name that is impossible to analyze. Huh? Who? Why you want me to be unhappy again? No, I'm joking. Ulay and me were making a book about anecdotes, and it's coming soon, about our life. And it's a very funny book how we're going to do it. He will be in one room, I'll be in another room. We will be asked one question, he will remember what he remember, I remember. Mostly it's completely two different stories. Sometimes match, mostly not. And we will get this book out.
I can analyze these dialogues.
Oh my God.
That's my next work.
It could be successful because I read this process of the two of you came from triumph of violence to triumph over violence. So there is an enormous progress during the whole.
You know, for me, it would be really a dream to analyze who I would like to analyze. Okay, so my work is so immaterial. So we should do somebody who is so material. What about Damien Hirst? Wow. No. It's like, I mean, I'm so impressed how much stuff he makes. And where is going to go all this if it's solar blast or our Earth collapse in one day? What will happen to everything? I think immateriality have a much better chance to survive somehow. Okay, the last question. We have to have a last question for the real Swiss human being here. We have to keep the Swiss. Oh, no. Oh, yes, the Swiss human.
Do you never get tired of showing so much of yourself? Like, in this book, you're like being completely naked in front of everybody?
You know how incredible liberating is? Please try for yourself. You will never stop. Honestly, this is why it's so funny with the Swiss. I always feel them so hermetically closed and so difficult to have opinion. If I ask you the question, what are you really ashamed of? You will never tell me, but I will tell you immediately. That's the difference. But when you say it to everybody what you're ashamed of, you feel liberated because you share this experience with others. And we all have the same problems. And it's when you find that key, it's very enjoyable. I think you should just do it. Because you asked me this question because you're not doing it. Start today. Okay, the last question. So come here. Take this.
I'd like to ask you whether you ever really feel love coming back when you're sitting opposite someone. Because I can imagine giving love makes you feel love, but do people actually, do you think people actually actively also want to love you? Do you think that?
I just had incredible much love from this girl who just hugged me. I felt that. I am going on the street and you know who is my public? My public is not my generation public. My public is anybody from 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, maximum 35. The people stop on the street and just hug me and cry and love me. And that's such an incredible feeling. It's something to do that I open some kind of doors to very young generation of the public, not my generation. My generation, when they come for the opening, they want me to see if I'm not doing well, or I don't look good, or they think the work is shit. Honestly, this is kind of jealousy that I counter, but young people don't have that. Young people look through the work and what I want to give to them, and they're accepting it. And this is my biggest public. My biggest public, you know, when I start performances was 10 people, 30 was big crowd. I have hundreds of thousands of people, but that generation, which is nothing to do anymore with art public, is completely above art public, something different happening here. Wow, yeah. I think they want to this space to something else. Yeah. We have to leave.
I think we should get just Jeanette the opportunity for her acknowledgements. Would you like to
your statement, please?
Yeah. Isn't this what you wanted to do?
No. I want to. Yes, thank you very much, Marina, for coming. Thank you very much, and thank you for your confidence in my work. It was for me. It was so great to work with you together, and also our friendship. Thank you very much. I want to say you that.
And you know, we're going to have a sign in the book now.
Very nice. It was very nice to work with Marina. One evening she explained me wie man Fledermäuse melken kann.
She explained how you can milk bats, how to milk the bats that fly.
Wir haben so viel gelacht zusammen und uns wurde auch erklärt, wie Fledermäuse zu melken sind.
Anyway, this was an incredible journey. I love the book. I think you should all read. It's so small, you can bring it everywhere and it really works. And we're going to sign the book now. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.